Hi everybody, I'm Mayor Tanya Thorn and I am here with Ginny, our sustainability coordinator, and we are going to talk bees today. I've been quizzing her on bee knowledge since we became a bee city last year, and we thought there was some, well, I thought there was some really cool facts that I didn't know, so I figured maybe you might not know them, and we're going to talk bees today.
Great.
Yeah. So, urban bees. We hear all the time about urban bees or urban beekeeping, I guess, as an example. Why don't you maybe start at the top, explain bees a little bit to me? So, you know, we all know that pollinating is important.
Yeah.
But explain that to me a little
totally.
bit.
It's been all over the news, and it seems to be a very trendy thing right now to know about bees, and beekeeping in particular has been on the rise for sure. No, I learned this week that there are over 20,000 bee species worldwide. Honeybees are just one of those species. And here in Alberta, we have 300 native bee species.
Wow.
30 of those bee species are bumblebees. So there are a lot of native bee species here in Alberta and worldwide that need our protection and our support, and that's part of our bee city.
Interesting, because yeah, for me, a bee is a bee is a bee. Now you're telling me, I guess it makes sense, right? Like, yeah, our lovely little deer that are here, there's a multitude different of them, so I guess it makes sense that there'd be a multitude different bees.
It's true.
So we have 300 different species in Alberta. What does that mean for pollination? Like, do they all pollinate in the same way? How do they all support pollination?
No, that's a really good question. Bees are bees. They all pollinate, right? That's really their central focus. They're looking for food all the time. But the difference is between honeybees and native bees. Honeybees are actually not native to North America. So honeybees came over here with settlers a couple hundred years ago. There weren't honeybees here before that. They were just our native bee population. So our native bees have actually evolved over time to be what scientists call specialists. So our native bees have evolved to seek out certain flower types or shapes even. So when honeybees come in, they are generalists. So they will take food and pollen and nectar from any type of flower. So there is a significant difference between the two of them. Honeybees as well are managed, right? So honeybees need a beekeeper in order to get our lovely commodity of honey that we all enjoy so much. So and native bees do not. They are just wild out in the landscape and doing their thing.
Okay, that's very interesting to me because you know, I'm a honey lover.
Me too.
So I do like the honeybee.
Yeah.
So do they compete for the same plant, and is there an impact on a honeybee or versus a native bee between the two?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. There's actually been some research in the last 10 years that has shown that when honeybees are introduced into an urban environment, so like Okotoks, the competition for food resources becomes pretty fierce. So because of the specialist generalist types of the different bees that we have, the honeybees can take a lot of the resources away from our native bee species, which causes a decline in the native bee species that we have here.
Okay, so that kind of then I think leads into explaining why we've chosen not to get involved in that urban beekeeping and manage it in a different manner here in Okotoks as a bee city.
Exactly. And Bee City, they have realized this as well, and their mandate is to support organizations and governments to support and protect all types of pollinators. So it's more diverse than just, you know, they started out as just honeybees, but they've realized, oh, no, that's a mistake. It needs to be broader than that. And needs to be protecting the species that really need our protection. Honeybees don't really need our protection in the same way. I know they have their own issues that are special and are being managed by brilliant beekeepers out there, but our native bees don't have that protection as much. you know, so it's our job to step in and to try and help them out however we can.
So what are some of the things that we are doing to help support our native bee population here in Okotoks?
Here in Okotoks, one thing was just being a bee city. We wanted to be recognized so that we had that certification saying this is something that we really care about, and so we're going to take some steps to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to protect those pollinators. So some of the things that we do here in town are in our natural areas. There are lots of natural areas that you'll see that we just let the grass grow. We don't mow them. And the reason for that is because lots of those natural areas, they have some native vegetation, some non-native vegetation, but lots of bees will nest in the ground directly. So you'll see lots of little holes sometimes, and those are just ground nesting solitary bees. That's where they go. They don't live in hives. And then also in tall grasses, bumblebees will sometimes create a little nest in there as well. So that's helpful. And then we've got over 300 hectares of just natural area with our river valley and our different park spaces all around town. And those, they just are a place where lots of native plants, especially in our river valley specifically, native vegetation can just flourish there, which makes our native bee population pretty happy. Exactly, yeah. Lots of the landscaping that the town does, you'll see that there's usually something blooming from early spring to late fall, and that's on purpose. So that's to make sure that there's food for our pollinators all year round.
We didn't just randomly make that happen? So that's kind of what we do as an organization to promote that. What is things that as me as an individual resident, what can I do for you know, my spare time when I want to tinker in the garden that nobody should look at my garden, it needs to be weeded. But anyways, what are the things that I can do in my spare time or other residents to support our native bee population?
Sure. You can kind of follow what the town does. Try and plant flowers that bloom from spring. Like there's different varieties that are spring, some are summer bloomers, some are late fall bloomers, so that there's food all summer long for the pollinators. I think that's one of the best things that we can do. Another thing that is really good, and this is going to sound really weird, but for those ground nesting bees that are just solitary bees, they need just bare ground. So if you can leave an unmulched, it doesn't have to be big. Maybe you start with just like a 1 foot square space of just undisturbed dirt. And eventually throughout the summer, you're gonna start seeing little holes. They also like old logs, you know, so you can leave your garden a little bit messy. They also will put some of their eggs in like leaf litter in the fall. So I don't clean up my yard until March, April, because there's a lot of, you know, eggs and habitat, and they sleep there over winter. So if you just leave those spaces alone, then in the spring it helps to help these guys proliferate.
Okay, that's really interesting because, you know, I just naturally do that, but usually not because I'm actually helping the bees. It's just because, oh crap, it snowed, I forgot to do that cleanup. Yeah,
no, that's okay. Another thing I'd love to push though is citizen science. Right? We love citizen science here in Okotoks.
So what is citizen science?
Exactly, it's getting involved, being a scientist, but doing really easy things. So one of the easiest things that you can do is to sign up on the iNaturalist app.
Okay.
And Okotoks is signed up there. We have projects that are on there sometimes. And the iNaturalist app, you can snap pictures of the different bees that you see in your yard, and then upload those pictures to the Town of Okotoks projects. You can do animals, plant species, anything, but we like to know about our pollinators. And then it will tell you what species of bee it is. So when you do this, you might be really surprised that you have more than just a bumblebee in your yard, that you have a mason bee or a leafcutter bee. A lot of them look like flies. It's really funny, or like wasps, but they're actually native bees. It's really interesting.
Oh, that is very interesting. Yeah. I will have to make sure I download that app, and now I can add citizens, I can add scientists to my job description. I see it, exactly. I see it now. Well, Jenny, I really appreciate you hanging out with us here at the Environmental Education Center. So if you are looking to find out what we do on an environmental way, how you can support our community, whether that be for bees, water, just being good environmental stewards, you can always drop by the Education Center, which is down by the Operations Center, which is down by Dog Stadium, which is down by the BMX track, in case you need references. and check out what's going on here. But do your part, support the bees in our community, and hope you found this informative.